This is the EWN Podcast Network.
Welcome to Late Boomers, our podcast guide to creating your third act with style, power, and impact. Hi, I'm Kathy Worthington.
And I'm Mary Elkins. Join us as we bring you conversations with successful entrepreneurs, entertainers, and people with vision who are making a difference in the world.
Everyone has a story, and we'll take you along for the ride on each interview, recounting the journey our guests have taken to get where they are, inspiring you to create your own path to success. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Kathy Worthington. Welcome to Late Boomers. Today, our special guest is Eileen Li-Ying Lundquist, formerly a lead engineer for a Fortune 500 company, and now author of the compelling novel Wings of Silk, which has a 5-star rating on Amazon.
And I'm Mary Elkins. Born and raised in China under the strict regime of Chairman Mao's Cultural Revolution, Eileen's story is one of overcoming adversity and learning to survive in the name of freedom and to flourish in a new land. Let's hear more about it from Eileen. Welcome, Eileen. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Tell us about your family and growing up in China under Chairman Mao's regime and why you decided to flee.
Both my parents originally from Hong Kong. My dad moved to China to join the revolution to build the new China movement. And therefore, my parents were the only people or the only family moved to China, and I was born in Beijing, China.
Ah. Wow. And what's the story of growing up there and what was it like?
I had a really fun childhood, and just my parents and me, myself. My sister was still in Hong Kong at that time. She's about 6 years older than me. And until 5 years old, my parents were sent to a labored movement because the Cultural Revolution, they asked the educated intellects to go to work in the field, claiming to redeem to become humble and to support Mao's vision.
And what made you decide to flee then? Why did you leave?
When I was at the end of the high school, the door finally opened to the West. And I haven't seen my grandparents live in New York City. And all this time growing up, I was dreaming to meet with my grandmother I never seen before. And my other relatives, like my aunt, my cousins, I never met before. That's one thing. And mainly, we were told that the freedom in the U.S. and the education opportunity is greater, and it's American dream that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up, yeah.
Well, what happened when you came to America?
I came to America, wanted to reunite it with my family that I never met. I had very high expectation to meet a grandmother in my mind that's really loving and caring. And also, I really wanted to get higher education. I want to make a difference in this world. Mm-hmm. However, I came here. My grandmother looked at me. She didn't think that I can make it because I didn't speak any English. And she just doesn't think that I could go through college with that condition. And she wanted me to get married. And I refused. I rebelled.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened then?
So she gave me an ultimatum, either meet with the guy she set up for me to meet, which is businessman, have money, and then I don't need to worry about my life in New York City anymore. Or if I don't obey, get out of my house. And I choose to get out of her house.
Oh,
Well, how did you
frightening.
survive if you didn't speak English? And how did you eat?
Right. I was very fortunate. I met some distant relatives who helped me. And one distant relative owned a garment factory and gave me a station to learn how to sew. By then, I never touched the sewing machine, let alone is the industrial level of sewing machine creating a rumbling, loud voices every time I step on the paddle. It was so scary, and but I learned, and I made my way through there like that.
That's
Wow.
great. That's
But I
great.
know you wanted to be a writer from the time you were a young girl. So tell us about that, and also tell us more about your book, Wings of Silk, and the importance of the title.
Right. My dad actually was a literature professor, and also he's a writer. And I must have got the DNA from him. When I
Mm-hmm.
was 5 years old, I really wanted to write. I just want to write. I just fascinated by telling stories and want to write. But then my dad steered me away from it because there wasn't freedom of speech under the environment. And he just said, there's no future for you to write. So then I listened to him and became an engineer. After many years living here, and the burning desire to write finally came out after I quit my job for the family. My children was in need of me, suffering some health issues and all that. And I have a friend who encouraged me to write about my story, and that finally came to my childhood wish came to fruition with the
And
book. Yeah.
and tell us about the importance of that title, Wings of Silk.
Right. It took us a long time to decide the title, but then we finally decide Wings of Silk. Silk symbolize strong and delicate, and also elegant too. And Wings of Silk is like the freedom, flying out to look to the freedom, to the best version of myself.
That's
Nice.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Would you talk about the aspects of Chinese culture that you no longer carry with you, but also about the aspects that you've passed on to your sons?
Right. For example, when my son were younger, especially the younger son, I had more time. I taught him Chinese myself since he was 2 years old.
Good for
And
you.
I felt that that's important for him to know Chinese culture. Both my older son, I sent him to Chinese school, and he didn't really learn much about it. He got too bored. So the second son, I wanted to make sure he really absolutely learned. So I started teaching him myself. And
Any other aspects of the culture that you practice every day?
I really think that I'm really proud of my heritage. We have 2,000 years history, and I grew up in an environment that I was told by my parents to be kind, to be strong, to be independent. And I want my children to continue that legacy. And yeah.
And would you tell our audience a little bit about how your book came to be published? Because originally you were afraid to share your story, right?
Correct. Yes. I have very deep gratefulness to my publisher, Holly. And we were friends at beginning. And after she heard about my story, she said, "You have to write about it." And she kept encouraging me for more than 10 years.
10 years.
Yes. And
it took you 10 years to write the book, or you'd already written it?
It took me more than 10 years to start writing the book, finally decide to write about it. At the beginning, I didn't feel that my story is worth it write about. And I don't want it to, there's a lot of privacy issues there too. And mainly, I didn't feel that is so important to write about it until Holly really encouraged me. And after after I knew her for 5-6 years, she opened up her own publishing company, and then she just yelled at me. She said, "There's no reason for you not to write anymore because I'm going to publish it for you."
Oh, fabulous to have a friend like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely.
Right.
Fabulous.
You talk somewhat about forgiveness in your book. How did you learn to forgive those people who wronged you? And would you talk about forgiveness and how it's transformed your life?
Correct. Up until my 30 years old, I encountered a lot of obstacles. People who has mistreated me, even my own grandmother. She has her own idea about what my life should be in the U.S. And I had totally different goal and purpose for my own self. And people like her and all that, it really has put me into a very depression state. And that create anger, shame, and hopelessness, basically. And to a point, I actually don't think that my life is worth it anymore. And I went through a failed suicide attempt. And after that, I was sent to a Christian community. And in a conference that day, the pastor talked about forgiveness. And that lesson, that one day, really transformed me, because only by forgiveness we can live a better life.
So that really changed everything for you.
Right.
And has it been a challenge for you to juggle your career with your family?
You mean the family of
well, your kids or your husband or
yes.
whatever. Yeah, it gets complicated.
Right.
Yes, especially when you were an engineer and then became a writer where you need that full focus.
Correct. My current husband, he's really supportive. He just really understanding and supportive. Of course, he said that as long as I don't write about him, then I'm okay.
Yeah, that's a good
Right.
point.
Yeah.
I could not have done it without his support. Wholeheartedly support. Yeah.
Were you
Mhm.
ever a single mother during that period?
I was a single mother for my first marriage for 8 years.
Oh.
And
Mhm.
that was a really challenging time, but that is also a very exciting time. I was given major responsibilities at work, and we were producing amazing product like text message. I was leading the project to develop the first text message in the whole entire world.
Really?
And it was a really exciting time. It was very intense and very hard-working time. And then at the same time, I was a single mother for my older son. And that was a really challenging time in terms of I must give up a lot of opportunities to be promoted to sort of balance work and being a mother at that time.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah,
Right.
very much. But you've come out of it quite well.
I was lucky that I married the second time, and my current husband is really supportive, and didn't I didn't really have to work that much. And we moved to California, and things changed, and my focus was on my family, and then I didn't have to struggle that much. Yes.
Yeah. What would you say to people who've recently immigrated to another country and they find themselves in a situation similar to yours, where they perhaps don't speak the language, or they have no way to find employment? What would you say to them?
Piece of radish, like I have found that most of people in this country are very open-minded. And even though I didn't speak much English, and I felt that I was supported most of the time. And in my book, I talked about my first job, my first boss. He encouraged me to discuss my ideas in the meeting. And he asked me why I was so quiet in the meeting. And I told him I was a little bit self-conscious about my language skills. And his response was so encouraging. He said, well, yes, your accent and your it tells me you live a richer life than me. And you brought a broader perspective to the meeting. And oftentimes he said, I found your idea brilliant, and you should talk about it and discuss it. It just really I just felt very encouraging. And
Find a support person or support system.
And
correct.
what a wonderful person to have as your boss or
Yeah,
your
a mentor.
coworker. Yeah.
Right. Yes. I was really lucky. Yeah.
Eileen, what would you like our audience to have as their main takeaway today?
Well, the main takeaway today is that I feel that all of us has a lot of histories and burdens in our heart, because life is not easy. And but I feel that if we work hard and have faith and learn to forgive ourselves. A lot of times we are too hard on ourselves too. Learn to forgive ourselves and forgive the people who've done wrong to us. And our heart would be touched and set free, just like the magical butterflies
Ah,
to
That's
fly.
that's
love
beautiful.
that.
I love that
Thank you.
too. Thank you so much. Our
Of course.
guest today on Late Boomers has been Eileen Li-Ying Lundquist, author of Wings of Silk. You can purchase her book at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and independent bookstores. And you can reach Eileen on her website at wingsofsilk.com. Thank you so much for being with us today, Eileen.
Thank you. My pleasure.
And we want to remind our listeners to follow us on Instagram at I am Kathy Worthington and at I am Mary Elkins and at Late Boomers. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Late Boomers Podcast, and on your favorite podcast platform. We try to bring you something interesting each week to uplift, inspire, and entertain you. And we thank you so much for being with us today, Eileen.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Late Boomers, the podcast that is your guide to creating a third act with style, power, and impact. Please visit our website and get in touch with us at LateBoomers.biz. If you would like to listen to or download other episodes of Late Boomers, go to ewnpodcastnetwork.com.
This podcast is also available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and most other major podcast sites. We hope you make use of the wisdom you've gained here and that you enjoy a successful third act with your own style, power, and impact.